So at this point, I've been using DaVinci Resolve for a little over 2 years, and I've had absolutely zero regrets about switching to it. That's pretty much why I talk about it as much as I do, and why I always recommend it to anyone who asks me what software they should get when getting into video editing. And honestly, when Blackmagic reached out and offered to sponsor a few of my videos, it was like the easiest yes that I've had to say this year. So in this video, I wanted to go a bit deeper into why I like Resolve as much as I do, as well as why it's been such a huge part of my filmmaking and editing work over the past few years. Now, the reason I got Resolve in the first place was because I wanted to step up my color grading skills, and even though there was a bit of a learning curve, eventually I started getting used to working with nodes. But at one point I was just like, well, I'm color grading my videos in here, so I might as well try editing them in here as well. And that's when I decided to try and fully commit to working on entire projects from start to finish in DaVinci Resolve. For a while, I used the free version and it did almost everything I needed it to, but after I got used to my new workflow a bit, I kind of realized that there were a few features that I needed which were only available in the studio version. So I upgraded to it, and honestly, it's a decision that I am 100% happy with. And since that time when I picked up the studio version for the first time, Blackmagic have been doing an amazing job with software updates, and they have added like a ton of new features, a lot of which I pretty much use anytime I work on a project these days. So I guess now's a good time to talk about some of my current favorite studio specific features and why I like them so much. Some of them have been in the studio version for a while, but there are a few newer ones that take advantage of Resolve's neural engine. The first one definitely has to be the transcription feature, and it's something that they added kind of recently, but ever since they did, I've been using it all the time. I've used it to cut down the talking head segments for literally every one of my YouTube videos over the past few months, and I've also used it on a few client projects as well. For me at least, having the ability to edit your videos as if you're just editing a normal text document is really useful, and it makes my life a lot easier. And considering how quickly it scans through your clips and generates text for them, I don't think that I would ever be able to go back to not having this feature. Knowing that this is in Resolve gives me so much peace of mind when I'm on set, because if I'm like interviewing someone, I'm able to keep things a lot more conversational, and I still know that I'll be able to easily read through anything we talked about later and piece it together. Or if I'm just recording myself, it gives me a bit of confidence to go a little bit off script sometimes when I need to, without having to worry that the entire edit is gonna go off the rails because of it. So yeah, automatic transcription is definitely my favorite feature right now. One thing I hope they improve about it in the future updates is the ability to tune what it counts as a silent part, because sometimes it ends up cutting off the start or the end of a sentence and I have to like pull it back and adjust it, which isn't a big deal, but some customization options for how it works would be really welcome. Next one is voice isolation, and again, it's a bit of a newer feature, but it's one that I've used all the time since it was added. I always apply it at some level to my talking head segments for YouTube videos to clean up things like reverb or the sound that the fan on my light makes. Aside from the practical uses for it though, kind of like with the transcription feature, this is something that just gives me peace of mind on set and a bit of extra confidence in my filmmaking work. There are times when I'll be at a location where controlling what the audio is like is almost impossible. Maybe the space is too big and stuff like sound blankets can't take care of all of the reverb, or there's like an AC unit somewhere that you just can't turn off for whatever reason. And in those cases, knowing that I can use voice isolation in post just helps to remind me that as long as I'm able to get the audio to be like 90% there, the other 10% are gonna be fine when I'm editing later. It's obviously not gonna save you in absolutely every situation, but it's still pretty crazy how well it works in some really tough conditions. Honestly, it's actually kind of funny that the people who make Resolve are called Blackmagic, because that's kind of what this feels like sometimes. A few other features that I really appreciate in the studio version are support for working with 10-bit footage, which a lot of people might not care about, but if you're working as a professional video editor, you definitely need it. The noise reduction feature in the color page is also something that saved me a bunch of times, and it cleans up images surprisingly well if you know what you're doing. And another great but underrated effect that's only available in the studio version is distortion correction, which I sometimes use when it's very obvious that straight lines in my footage don't look right because of lens distortion. I think you get the point. I obviously like Resolve Studio and I can talk about it for ages, but instead what I decided to do is reach out to a few other filmmaker friends who also use it and ask them why it's been such a big part of their filmmaking work. Just thought that it might be cool to hear a few other points of view instead of listening to me talk about it for hours, so here you go.
All right, George, thank you so much for inviting me to this video. I really appreciate it. If you don't know who I am, my name is Sjoerd. I'm a Dutch guy making YouTube videos on Resolve and filmmaking and business and finance and whatnot. And I'm going to explain why I love DaVinci Resolve so much. So back in, I think 4 or 3 years ago, I bought my Pocket 4K, which gave me access to the full studio version of DaVinci Resolve. I started using it and I never looked back because the software on its own just makes sense to me. I never have to search, all the buttons are intuitively placed. And of course, the color page is a little bit of a learning curve, but once you get the hang of it, it's super easy to use and intuitive. And that's the most important thing. Having the pages, like the media page, the cut page, edit page, color page, and so on, all down there, which you can switch very quickly back and forth to, is a game changer for me. I have the studio version, and for good reason. There's 3 tools that I cannot live without. So the first one is the grain tool. So if I want to make my edits seem a little bit more authentic or just give it a bit more of an edge, I use the grain tool. So I'll make a new node at the end of my project, scroll all the way down, a little bit up, and then add the grain tool. I usually put like 35mm 400T, put it on overlay, and then all the way up, and then I play around with the grain size a little bit until I'm satisfied with what I'm seeing. This is kind of what I always do, and I play around with the sliders to get the exact detail what I want, but that's it. The second one is, because I shoot a lot of documentary work, I also find myself in very dark environments that my camera just cannot handle at the moment. So I bump up my ISO, but it gives me a bit of a grainy image. So I use noise reduction. So I press Shift S on my first node, which creates a node before it. Then I go to my motion effects, 3, better, and then usually around 8 to 10 is good for me. And that gives me just the nice, sort of noise reduction without losing too much detail. I cannot live without this because sometimes you must use it. Also, if you shoot RAW, it's also very advisable to use this. The third one is actually in the edit page. You can also do it in the Fairlight page, but I usually do it here. Go to your inspector and then to audio, and then click on voice isolation. I usually choose between 75 and 100, depending on the amount of noise. But even if you shoot an interview somewhere outside with a lot of noise from trucks or people, this will filter out everything. I don't know how it's doing it, but it's doing an amazing job. All right, so that's that. So enjoy the rest of the video.
Hey George, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute honor to be here. Just a very quick introduction to myself. My name is Sebastian. I'm a Germany-based filmmaker and editor, and I mainly do event after movies, music festivals, and some smaller commercials. And I've been using DaVinci Resolve since late version 14, early version 15, I believe. Can't really remember the exact version it was, but back then it was just the free version and just for color grading purposes. However, when Resolve 16 was announced, I bought a Pocket Cinema camera which came with a studio license, and ever since then I've been using DaVinci Resolve Studio exclusively. And when it comes to studio features that I use almost every single day, it's very simplistic, it's nothing too fancy, it's just the noise reduction and the deflicker tool, mainly because of the type of work that I do. When you film an artist on stage, the stage usually is lit pretty well, but when you quickly want to capture a reaction shot from the crowd, it's gonna be a whole lot darker. And because you don't have the time to adjust your exposure, because you want to capture the emotions in that moment, you have to deal with a little bit of noise every now and then, but that is nothing to be too worried about because the built-in noise reduction in DaVinci Resolve is just so great. Anyways, when it comes to the deflicker tool, as I've already said, the stage usually is lit very well, and at this point, it's just unavoidable. Every now and then you will end up with a little bit of flickering in your shot, which again is nothing to be too worried about because the deflicker tool will just fix that for you and turn an unusable shot into an actually usable shot. Just a matter of seconds. But the deflicker tool is not magic. When strokes go crazy and you can see your shutter moving up and down, there's nothing the deflicker tool can do to fix that. So at this point you only have 2 options, either cut it out or just use it in a very creative way. And when it comes to future implementations that I want to see in DaVinci Resolve Studio, it's just probably gonna be being able to mask in the edit page, in the viewer of the edit page. I don't know how, either probably as an effect in your effects library that you just drag on top of your footage, or already built into the inspector, and then being able to keyframe the mask path, that will be something that I would love to see in the future. But anyways, that's it from me, and once again, thank you so much for having me.
I basically used Resolve briefly for color grading like a year ago, and it wasn't until I hired Bozhidar beginning of this year that we implemented Resolve fully into our workflow. I guess from a business owner standpoint, because I own a film production company, firstly I think the best thing that Resolve offers is a free version.
Yep.
For the people, who want to start learning video editing, and that's, a great start, especially like if you're a beginner or a student and you're wondering whether that should be the thing that you want to do. Even so, because of course we got the paid version, the studio version that you can see here behind us, I really like that it's a one-time payment and you're covered for your whole life, which it's basically amazing. But yeah, let's talk about Resolve itself.
First, I would say that the option that is a free version, it's just great. That's maybe the first thing that got my attention. Previously, I was also working 5 years on another program. For me, the jump was really harsh. I just decided, okay, I will stop paying subscription and to just go to DaVinci. I was a bit scared, but I would say the program is quite intuitive, and the switch and for me to get used to it was really natural, and over the course of a week I just got the hang of it, and that was maybe 2 months before I came here. So I have been working on this program for not more than a year, and I don't want to work on any other program, I'm so used to it now. But then I started shooting 4K 10-bit colors, and I had to switch to the studio version, which, yeah, to be honest, that one-time payment for a lifetime is nothing compared to other options out there.
By the way, also to the coloring tab, we really like, one of our favorite features is the noise reduction.
Yep.
This has saved our asses. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but
even on this camera, maybe not this angle, but
yeah, I mean, sometimes, especially when you're shooting, I don't know, on a lens that's probably f4 and it's a dark environment, there is sometimes a lot of noise. And that's really been a great fix.
Oh yeah, recently I discovered the remote monitoring app on DaVinci that you can just connect it to your phone or your iPad, and basically you can see while editing, you can see what's on the monitor on your phone. And as good as these monitors are, sometimes always on your phone is looking different. So the option to look it on your phone while editing, it's so great for delivering that final colors that
Absolutely.
will be good when you post it.
Absolutely, yeah, because most of our projects, as I said, are for social media, and everyone is looking at that content on their phone, so having the ability to monitor on a device like that is just really easy. So yeah, we love that. We both agree on the fact that the workflow is really made very easier compared to other competitive programs out there, because basically everything is divided into different segments and pages depending on what exactly you want to focus on your project, and that really helps out with the overall organization and being very intuitive in your use with editing.
Yeah, I would say that also is a great thing. And I'm a bit conflicted. I like it. I like that it's there is a page for everything, but also the thing that I don't like is that you cannot really customize the windows inside of it. And in a day and age that we are living in, most of the content that you're making, it's vertical. So editing vertical content on DaVinci sometimes it's a bit harsh, especially if you're using a laptop or just one monitor. You always have to squeeze your eyes. I would say if there is an option to arrange the windows in a way that you prefer, that would be just something that will put the program on another level.
Yeah, I totally agree. We tried, customizing it to, where it allows, as you can see on the monitors behind us, but still we do edit a lot of vertical content. So it's definitely going to be easier if we can see that in any of the future updates. Because yeah, I mean, that's going to make it even better. But yeah, I think basically that's it. That's our review of the DaVinci Resolve Studio. So, hope this helps.
Yep.
And, we're going to be looking forward to see all of the improvements in the upcoming, versions of DaVinci. And yeah, we're excited. So thank you.
So aside from all of the stuff that I mentioned and the features that everyone else talked about, there are a bunch of other great ones that you get access to with the studio version of Resolve. I can't really list out all of them because this video would probably take hours, but if you go on Blackmagic's website, you can find a detailed list of all of the features that are specific to Resolve Studio. But either way, if you're someone who wants to take stuff like filmmaking, editing, color grading a bit more seriously, then I genuinely believe that upgrading from the free to the studio version is going to be the right call. Considering that it's a one-time payment, and at this point it's such an all-in-one powerhouse, I just think it's a no-brainer. And I can pretty much guarantee that you'll quickly realize a lot of what Resolve Studio offers is just like well worth the money. So before we wrap things up, I just want to thank all of the people that helped me put together this video. Aside from being like really kind, every single one of them is an absolutely amazing creator, and if you haven't checked them out yet, I highly recommend it because you can definitely learn a ton about filmmaking, editing, and a bunch of other stuff from the videos they put out. Links to all of their channels will be in the description, so I would really appreciate it if you can go and show them some love. So hopefully, if you were on the fence about upgrading to the studio version of Resolve, this video was helpful in giving you a few reasons why it might be the right call for you. I obviously couldn't cover every little detail about it, but I'd be happy to try and answer any questions that you might have about it, as long as I actually know what the answer is in the first place. Also, if you've been using Resolve Studio for any amount of time, feel free to share what you think about it and what some of your favorite and most used features are so far. As always, thank you for sticking around until the end, and I'll see you in the next one.